And now,
it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob at 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. What's going on, Ben?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks to everybody who helped out with the fundraiser yesterday. That was a lot of fun.
Very enjoyable. Good time. Fun to talk to Colt,
mm-hmm.
Roman, Megan, the whole fam. The whole
Nurse
gang.
Grace,
Sarah.
Yeah, it was
musician.
Good. Oh, the musician was fun. That was
Very
great.
Cool. Yeah.
A little Elton John. Yeah, it was a fun show.
Yeah.
And it's cool to be down there with the rest of the cluster, the other radio stations, TV, all the volunteers. Like, pretty cool thing.
Nate Solberg.
No big deal.
BYU cornerback or
defensive
back. Probably a safety.
I told you I thought I remembered him as a safety because I was just starting then, and certainly the name rings true. And you Googled it and said defensive back. I think it was safety.
Yeah, that would track. And he's a track guy, so that would.
And Colt is too.
Yeah, Colt is too. So.
Yeah, so awesome. We said it a billion times yesterday, but we're so lucky to have primary children's.
Grace? Was that their daughter? I think it was Grace.
Shout
out the whole family,
and also everybody who helped out with the Karma promotion that we ran that donated the $2. That was kind of a big chunk of it too. So
huge chunk of it.
Big thanks to everybody who really participated in the cause.
Very cool.
It is pretty cool. So that was a big deal yesterday. How are you, Christian? We only got to talk to you yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't see you.
Doing great. Not a lot's changed since I saw you guys last.
Not a lot?
No.
You're still happily married?
Yeah, as far as I
goodness.
can tell.
Oh, thank
At least on my end. I don't know how she
well,
feels.
I check in with you both daily that you're still set in your relationships.
We are. And you?
Just making sure. Yeah, another day.
Is your wife back in town?
Uh-huh.
Oh, good.
Yeah, back in town. Rolling with getting ready to go out of town next week, which I don't know. I get super anxious when traveling, so
yeah.
I'm not looking forward to that in the slightest. Ben, where do you want to start today?
Well, I thought Danny Ainge was interesting this morning on DJ and PK. I know Ryan Smith's going to be on later today on Hans and Scotty around 2:00, I think. But yeah, I thought what Danny Ainge, and I don't know if we have the clip yet, but we'll have to find it. It's like 18 minutes into the interview. DJ asked him about the tanking conversation that Austin Ainge said, you won't be seeing this year. And I thought Danny ultimately boiled it down to, and it's what we've been saying, and it's kind of what I learned talking to some people off the record after the press conference, which is just like, I don't think there was real appetite for how that felt last year. And you felt it doing pre-half and post-game shows. I felt it writing about the team. We felt it during the radio show. Every fan felt it. Everyone who watched on TV felt it. The players felt it. The coaches felt it. The front office felt it. It was not fun. It was not look, tanking's not fun. Losing games is not fun. There are more fun ways to do it than what the Jazz did last year.
How so?
You can be authentic and still lose games. And just what the Jazz did was just so inauthentic. And look, that's not the Jazz committing a crime. That's what the league rewards. And teams across the NBA do it. But like I will tell you, the Wizards had a way more fun season last year than did the Jazz. And won one more game.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if the Wizards have ever had a fun season.
But last season for a Wizards fan, when you're watching Alex Sarr, the number 2 overall pick, and Bub Carrington and Bilal Coulibaly and all these young guys, and they weren't purposely, for the most part, like they didn't play Brogdon last year.
They traded Kuz. They
did trade Kuz now. I mean, that's fine. Well, again,
okay.
You can trade away your good players and still have a good time. Sitting players that are healthy otherwise is more difficult.
Okay, let's play the clip because I certainly have a thought on what you just said. Let's play it.
You know, I think the fans should be excited about the guys that we have and how they're developing and whatever pieces that are put together in this off season with the team. I think it'd be more fun this year, and I really believe that because the players are not only getting better and growing, but I think the coaches are getting to understand one another. There's some continuity with the group here, and it'd be the second year as opposed to a first year. And I do see the improvement. So I'm excited for this year, regardless of what, buzzwords we want to use. I'm looking forward to this upcoming year.
All right. Just piggybacking on what you said, I think people didn't like how this season felt because the Jazz gave away their integrity.
Okay.
Now, I think what you're talking about is the Carmela Soprano. I don't think you can tank or lose games and do it somewhat purposely and shake that feeling just by, it's personnel stuff.
Carmela Soprano being Tony Soprano's wife, who is trying to both be morally justified while her entire life is built on horrendous crimes.
While benefiting from the horrendous crimes
that she somewhat claims to speak against.
How can I thread the needle of still living in this wonderful neighborhood?
Yeah.
But maintain my integrity?
Can you have your cake and eat it too?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And unfortunately in the NBA, because of what you're describing, that the rules are set up that way, I think you have to sacrifice your integrity to lose games.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be curious.
To that level.
Now, as far as Danny Ainge goes, he's never admitted that they're losing games on purpose.
Of course. No, nobody from the Jazz has.
The closest one that's come is Austin Ainge himself when he said we're no longer going to lose games on purpose.
You won't be seeing that.
Now, if you believe, Danny, that the players are getting better, this even further complicates the process. Because in order to lose games, you and your players are better. How's that? And I think there's something to, like, what really was accomplished by playing Cody Williams this year? Other than he helped you lose games on purpose. What really was accomplished?
I mean, look, truthfully, Cody Williams is a better player today than he was at the beginning of last year. He was, right? He plays 50 games. He goes to the G League. He's a much better player. But I don't think it was a result of what happened last year so much as, he just played another year of basketball. Nothing the Jazz did specifically made him better.
He could have played 10 minutes a game and made the same improvement.
Probably. Or it could have been in any situation anywhere. Right. Could have been on any team anywhere and made the same improvement.
But because you used him as a piece to lose games, one, you diminished his value greatly.
Yeah.
And two, what did you do to him? If you play young players or ship off all the veterans, which I'm honestly not, knock yourself out. Like I'm not saying I oppose that, but you're going to try and win 17 games next year and do it with integrity. Well, how many players are you going to ruin in the process? How many young players are you going to go, he kind of got better because he played, but yet he was on a team that actually tried and could only win 17 games? I mean, that's historically bad.
Yes, you would have to be one of the least talented teams
in the history of the NBA.
Yeah, of all time to only win 17 games while trying to win every night.
So I don't think you can get rid of how did you put it? You put it well, the taste of the season? I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can get rid of the taste, lose all those games, and I don't think that's possible. So I don't know which lane the Jazz have selected. I'm actually not, because they really can't admit it, I'm not believing anything on its face. We'll see how it goes. But if they're going to try and win 17 games again next year, the taste is going to be just the same regardless. I assure you.
I don't think they're going to win 17 games next year. I would be surprised if they're not in the lower 20s or mid 20s. I don't think they're going to threaten 30 because 30 is going to make them lose their draft pick. And then they're going to hope that they get a little bit of draft luck and move up into that top 1, 2, 3, or 4 with a 15, 16% chance of doing that versus the 48% chance they had of staying in the top 4 that they didn't even get anyways. That would be my guess going forward. But also when you say pick a lane, I mean, I still believe in some sense, for the most part, that they haven't entirely picked their lane because they don't know what's out there for them yet.
I don't think they have either. I don't. Even though Austin says, the tank is over, everyone.
Yeah.
All right. Well, nobody's even admitted there's the tank in the first place, which is hilarious.
And you may not know until 15 games into the season, in all honesty, because we can go back and we can look at the 2017-2018 Jazz, who everyone would have sworn was taking a step backwards after losing Gordon Hayward And Donovan Mitchell, actually, if you go back and look at his first 10 games, he was pretty terrible.
Oh, he sucked for half the season.
And then he started to make some shots, and then all of a sudden it came together, and he was the front runner, or tied with Ben Simmons for Rookie of the Year in that running, and the Jazz were capable of winning a playoff series. And that could change depending on who you draft. If you draft a guy like Ace Bailey, if he ends up falling to you at 5, and you realize 15 games in, like, oh yeah, he's the guy. Like, this is the guy you're building around. I think you just change the way you approach the season, If you end up with Con Knippel at 5 and you say, well, we're actually drafting him because I think he's going to fit really well next to whoever we draft next year, then you shape everything towards next year again.
Do you think the franchise is tired of being held hostage by this stupid decision to sign Derek Favors like 6 years ago?
Yes, and then to trade it. Yes.
So why are you letting this one draft pick manipulate your whole philosophy as a team?
Because, well, I would disagree that it's dictating the entire philosophy of your team. I don't think that's completely accurate, but certainly they don't want to be giving away free draft picks.
Hold on to your draft pick was the reason they submarined the team 2 years ago. Hold on to your draft pick was the reason that they did it last year.
No, that's part of why they did it.
So hold on to your draft pick is going to keep the franchise hostage again?
I just disagree with that statement. They needed to add talent. They needed to go out and get good young players, and they needed to bring a star in, and to do that, you have to be drafting in the top 5. It does just so happen that or top 10 in this situation, it just so happens that you also owed a pick to the Thunder at that time. I mean, I think there's overlap there, but they needed to add star players after losing Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, and they felt like top 10 picks were the best way to do it. They also have top 10 picks or picks outside of the top 10 going to Oklahoma City if they were to finish with the 12th, 13th, or 14th record. So they've probably, in all honesty, so far dropped a half of a season twice, so maybe a full season overall, to make sure that pick didn't go to OKC in 2003 and 2004. Last year, they were just going to be terrible.
23-24, yeah.
2003 and 2004, right? They owed the pick in 03 and they owed the pick in 04.
20 years ago?
2023 and 2024.
That's what I'm telling you.
Thank you very much. Apologies. So, yes.
Well, you used a couple of things there. To get a star player, you must draft in the top 5. Incorrect.
Well, that was their approach. That's not my approach, but that's their approach.
But if that's the reasoning, that's not true. There are more than one way. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
There is.
Just ask Lloyd, noted cat tanner. He's pumping out cat pelts like nobody's business. Mm-hmm. There's more than one way to do things. Why would you let this narrow view dictate all your whole philosophy? Because Dennis Lindsay made a bad decision 6 years ago. We talked about this 3 years ago, Ben. Like, wouldn't it be better just to rip the dang thing off and then do what you want?
Yeah, convey the pick.
Convey the pick and then just get over with it. Now we're 3 years later and we're still using the same justification. Well, package your 21st pick and get into next year's draft. There's a million ways. When the Jazz, let's see. It was a funny draft night. They had like the 13th or 14th pick, and they traded it for George Hill, like right out of the gate. I'm sitting there doing this draft show like, well, what are we going to talk about for the next 3 hours? Well, we're going to talk about George Hill, but now do we completely abandon the draft, or what do we do? Like, nobody saw that coming. All of a sudden, this first round pick, which was probably the crown jewel of the Jazz treasury for years in advance, all of a sudden they swapped it for their veteran point guard. Right. There's more than one way to get into the top 5. There's more than one way to get into the top 10. I've used it for years. The Jazz got the 6th pick with Darren Williams. They traded into the top 3, no problem. Mm-hmm. And so why do we get so monolithically focused on these things that stand out that you would let a conveying a pick dictate exactly how you operated? If it was convenient not to convey the pick, fine. But why is it determining everything that you're doing? That seems ridiculous to me. If there's a guy in the top 10 and you convey the pick and you want somebody in the top 10, well, trade for a top 10 pick. We see it every single year.
Yes, I agree with you. And in retrospect, it would be easy to look back and say, like, would you rather have freedom right now or would you rather have Cody Williams? I think there's a lot of fans who would probably say, give me the freedom, Fine, you conveyed the pick. You didn't get Cody Williams. What is Cody Williams going to bring for you? We don't know yet. Maybe Cody Williams still has 3 or 4 years to develop and really turns into something.
Williams.
No, certainly not either. And I think that's the whole aspect the Jazz are looking at. But, you can go back and say, I think there's a realistic chance. In fact, the odds will probably tell you it is the case just based off their rookie season alone. But one of Isaiah Collier or Kyle Filipowski is probably going to be a better player than Cody Williams. There's a very realistic shot that ends up happening. They were better as rookies. They're nearly the exact same age. They're further ahead in their development. All of them were extraordinarily high recruits, right? Like, if you were to just reset it 12 months before they went to college, both of those players would have been taken over Cody Williams. Like, Flip was a way better recruit than Cody, as was Isaiah Collier. Way better. And then, Cody had a good 15 games to start his Colorado career and got drafted in the top 10, mostly as a result. But to your point, if you're basing it all on a top 10 pick, you don't even know if the top 10 pick is going to be the best player you get in that singular draft. You can find players or star players or role players otherwise. And when you're drafting at 9, 10, wherever the Jazz are getting Taylor Hendricks and Cody Williams, historically, you're not getting a star, you're getting a role player. And the Jazz showed that they could get role players at 29 and 31 like they did or 32 with Flip and with Isaiah Collier. So to your point, I agree with you. It's not the only way to get stars. I would also tell you I'm not in the conversations when the Jazz feel like they have a deal done for Drew Holiday and it falls apart and goes to Boston.
Sure.
And I don't know what the conversations are like when they think they're trading for Paul George or going to try and trade for Paul George and the Clippers aren't listening and they're going to use Paul George to convey getting Mikal Bridges here too or vice versa. The Jazz are trying to trade for Kristaps Porzingis 3 years ago before the Celtics do, and they don't get the deal done. I'm sure if you work in the Jazz front office and you knock on that door enough times and nobody answers, you go back to saying, fine, top 5 pick. That's our best approach.
Coming back to Cody Williams real quick, because I'm trying to bring our conversation full circle to the, are they going to try or not, and the ick of the season. Do you think they feel bad that, listen, if Cody Williams were a normal rookie that were allowed to develop, even Taylor Hendricks the year before, what would the narrative around him be? He's got to put on a little weight, but I can see the little potential there. You pointed out his defensive acumen already and some of the things that he got better at. That would be the narrative. But what's the narrative on Cody Williams? He had the worst season in NBA history.
Yeah.
That I've heard that from multiple pundits, that he had the worst season in NBA history.
Right.
Why is that? You said it on the show. He is the one who helps the Jazz lose games.
Yes.
He is the cooler.
Yeah, he is. At that point in his career, where he was in his development and physically, he was not able to help you win games, and the Jazz used him accordingly.
Don't you think it feels a little gross that they sacrificed him and his potential to a certain extent to lose games? Don't you think that feels gross? Like, they did him a disservice by playing him all that time. And don't give me this, well, it's developmental time in big-time situations. Ben, if we put you in an NBA game, you think you'd develop?
No.
That's not always the best recipe. And if you're drafting somebody on potential and they have a 170-pound frame, or whatever it is, I'm being extreme.
180.
Right. Shouldn't you give that person the grace to get better, to get where they need to be, especially if you know they're not there going in? They did him a disservice. I don't mean to offend anybody over there, but that's kind of gross.
So having talked to, because I agree with you, but I will just provide a little backstory here. First of all, I will tell you the Jazz wouldn't have done it if they didn't think mentally he had the ability to handle that type of criticism. The Jazz, if they thought this was going to ruin his future potential to become an NBA player, the Jazz wouldn't have done it because Will Hardy cares, the coaching staff cares, the front office cares.
I would think so.
They do care about these people.
I would think so.
And if they thought this was going to break Cody Williams, I promise you they wouldn't have done it. Secondly, Cody Williams he talked about it every time. I'm happy to be playing. I'm playing. I recognize what a lucky opportunity this is for me to be playing. So that's a little bit of backstory. Like, this isn't Cody Williams being like, why are you guys putting me in the firing range over and over?
I'm glad you said that to soften it a little bit, but I think the overall point still stands.
It does.
Like Carmela Soprano celebrated when Tony had a big score, because she got caught up in we're trying to lose games. We're trying to do everything we can to get this draft pick. She's trying to do whatever she can to get that new mink fur or whatever. But then down the line, she throws the mink away because she's like, oh, well, I had to sacrifice a lot there to get that mink. You know what I mean?
But Danny Ainge, in his interview this morning with DJ and PK, which I recommend you go back and listen to as soon as all of our shows on the station have ended for the day, our live local shows, did talk about Aaron Nesmith specifically, who was a 14th overall pick. And you know what? The gap between 14 and 10 is non-existent. And the difference was the Celtics didn't really need to play Aaron Nesmith a ton in 2020, 2021, right? They already had Jason Tatum. They already had Jaylen Brown. So he played 46 games. He played 14 minutes a night, as opposed to Cody Williams, who played 50 games, started 21, and played 21 minutes a night. And Aaron Nesmith came along slowly. And then in year 2, they let him come along slowly again. He played 52 games. He played 11 minutes a night, even fewer, because he wasn't ready to play. And he had played more college basketball than Cody had. He'd been at Vandy for a couple of years and was a much better physical specimen. And even he wasn't ready to play year 1 and year 2. And it wasn't until year 3, and unfortunately for Boston, they didn't get to see it when they traded him to Indiana, he blossomed. And now he's a huge playoff performer.
Yeah. But that's easy for Nesmith, who's not been labeled the worst player in NBA history.
No, you're right. You're right. No, I mean, that's to the point. Exactly. Ideally, Cody could have been brought along slowly the same way Aaron Nesmith was, right? In a situation where they didn't need him to play any specific role and they weren't asking him to do anything. And the Jazz were asking Cody to do a lot.
Just show up to the plane on time.
Yeah.
Be to practice on time. Don't stay out too late drinking. Like those things that rookies need to be learning in their 6 minutes a game. How to stay in NBA shape, whatever.
Right.
And they deserve that.
Yeah.
He deserved that.
Agreed.
So, I don't know. We get back to the ick thing. That's it. I mean, if it's not their fault because the NBA rewards the ick. It's like the government rewarding you for cheating on your taxes. It doesn't make any sense. It cheats the game. They need to fix it. We've talked about it a million times, and all the stuff they've done to fix it doesn't work. And I saw Adam Silver put on some sunscreen and went out and did an interview and talked about, see, Dallas didn't tank, and they got the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Either you're basically admitting that you rigged the draft, or you're creating a straw man. Because that everybody knows. Everybody can read the odds. Everybody knows that Dallas randomly getting selected number 1 is not going to stop any of this ever.
Right.
So,
correct. And the hard
it's not their fault. It's just gross.
The hard part for Cody is even with the human nature and the Jazz having good intentions for him and Will Hardy truly caring about people and wanting to say, like, I'm not going to ruin this kid's chance of having a great NBA career if I don't think he can handle this type of difficult rookie season. There still is that narrative out there, and there still is in your subconscious, Cody is now painted as this versus if he hadn't played very much and you still kind of had this upside potential. And why I'm saying this is because I think there's a real chance that whoever they draft at 21 or an older player that we talked about the seniors being in the draft at 43 or 53, or maybe even if you get Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe at 5, those guys are going to play in front of Cody because a little bit of his reputation.
Yep.
Right? They're going to step in, and if Carter Bryant from Arizona is there at 21 and the Jazz take him, or Will Riley's there from Chicago or Illinois and the Jazz take him, and he plays a little bit better, they will invest in that player over Cody Williams. And that's the hard part for Cody, where because he had such a bad year, it might be easier to not play him in year 2. And it probably was unfair to throw him out the way they did.
Interesting combo. I'll be interested to see which lane they pick. Because I mean, it's great that he says that, but what are you going to do?
Yep.
But I don't necessarily believe that the thread the needle approach exists.
No, I don't think you thread the needle. I think you have to get worse. You have to have a worse roster that if you want to compete every night, you just have to have less talent.
I don't know if that's possible.
You can trade off John Collins and Colin Sexton and be worse.
How much did that help them win last year?
I mean, 8 of their 17 wins.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think there's a real chance that John Collins, even though he only played 40 games, if he didn't play them, and he was probably the Jazz's best player.
Yeah, he had a great year.
Colin was probably 3rd or 4th, you know.
All right, stay tuned. Top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, bro.
You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what you doing?
Well, now it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
Cheap bangs.
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Don't miss another Minky Monday on the Zone. Tune in all day on Monday to win Minky Couture blankets. The original classy blanket, Minky Couture, makes the perfect Father's Day gift. And Zone listeners get 50% off with code ZONE50. Don't miss Minky Monday on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Yeah, you know what? You wouldn't think a Minky would make a good Father's Day present? Incorrect. Oh, I love my Minky. I'd be thrilled to get a Minky for Father's Day. All right, time for the top 3 stories of the day. KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. All right, Christian, where are we starting today?
Number 1, 6:30 tonight, Game 1.
Pacers, I think they're going to have to take a real punch tonight. I think they're going to have to show that they can stand up to a big punch, and I think that's what they should be anticipating, and they've got to be ready to feel that wave, let it brush over them, and then fight back and keep this game close. I think if they step out or start out on the wrong foot here, I think it could be a really bad omen for the series.
Oh, it's funny, Ben. We didn't talk about this before, but I almost have the exact opposite opinion. Because didn't Oklahoma City sleepwalk through Game 1 of the last series
and lost?
They've also
they slept walked through the first game of the Nuggets series and lost.
That's what I'm thinking about, probably. Yeah. But they've been off forever. Mm-hmm. They're coming in as the heavy favorite. I think OKC is totally vulnerable. I think there's a chance they absolutely don't take Indiana seriously and sleepwalk through this one. And I don't think that if Indiana loses, it's over by any means.
No, it's not over. No, you got to go back to Indiana still and win some games if you're OKC. I mean, not technically, but you're going to want to. You don't want this going 7. But I just think with that crowd, it's not a type of game Indiana's played in. I mean, neither has Oklahoma City necessarily, but the raucousness that we saw in Game 6 when they closed out, was it Game 5 when they closed out the Timberwolves? I just think that's what's waiting for them, and I think it's going to be extraordinarily intimidating. And we still get these games from the Pacers occasionally where they no-show. Their last game at Madison Square Garden, they totally no-show.
Yeah, but they had the series won.
They did. They knew they could go back.
They're going into Game 1 as the team that everybody's saying going to lose in 5, if not 4.
They should play loose.
I wouldn't think that they're going to be tight or flat or whatever cliche you want to throw in there. I think Oklahoma City might determine this game, as the favorite often does.
And I think they will. And that's why I'm saying, I don't think they're necessarily going to come out flat, Indiana, but I do worry that OKC is going to come out with their hair on fire, and you can't let that intimidate you. You just got to recognize that's the dynamic of these series. The Jazz won Game 1 here in 1998 and then ended up losing the series. I think they lost Game 2 and then lost in 6 overall. You got to ride that out, and I think that's what Indiana has to be prepared for if that's what they run into.
All right, what's next?
Number 2, we all know about the big game hunting quote last year. Danny Ainge this morning on DJ and PK opened up about getting skunked.
Well, so we have gone after some of the bigger players and bigger names and more star-like players to add to our current roster. But, in the league now, there's not many of them right now that are available. And those that do come available, there's 8 or 10 teams trying to get them too. So I think maybe the most important thing is what you're saying is that what you have to trade matters a lot. And most of the trades that I've made in my career are because the other team really, really wanted what I had. And that's why you make trades. I mean, it's tough to call a team and sell them on a player that they don't want. And so they spend all their time looking around the teams they want and call the teams that have players they want. And so that's the most important thing, is just having the assets. And we do have the draft picks and we do have good players like you mentioned. But if they're not good players in the eyes of the teams that have the star player, there probably isn't going to be a deal done.
So, Ben, I did not hear that live this morning on DJ and PK, and I was kind of wondering going in because initially I thought, is he going to throw his players under the bus? The assets weren't good enough. And I guess if you really wanted to read into it that way, you could. But here's how I read into it. That philosophy is why he's good at his job. The vast majority of trades he's pulled off in his career is because the other team is desperate.
Yes,
It's
he's let people come to him.
He's let people. He's got the leverage. When he makes smart moves, it's because he's got the leverage. The other team is desperate for what he's got, and then he plays that to the best advantage, which I think is a really sound philosophy as a general manager. I don't think that means you don't seek what's out there, nor do I think that's what he's saying. But I think what he's saying is, I'm not going to make a move just to make a move. I'm not going to go and be desperate to another team.
Right. Nor do you want to be desperate.
I'm perfectly fine with Lowry Markkanen on my team.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with that. So unless you really, really want it, well, why would I do it?
Again, look at the Warriors deal. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, that's just showing that Danny doesn't have to trade anybody just to trade them.
And I think that's how the best franchises in the NBA work. Look at desperate Phoenix.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, as you said, it's a stinky cologne.
Stinky cologne.
I would imagine, and of course, nothing's bats 1,000. But I would bet the majority of the time, the team that calls to initiate a trade loses the trade.
Yeah, the team who's desperate
probably doesn't.
Probably is going to overpay
because, do we think Danny called Philly and was like, "I think we want to move back from 1 to 3"? No, I'm sure Philly called and said, "Hey, we really want to get the number 1 pick. We got to get Markelle Fultz.
Yeah.
What'll it cost us?" And Danny said, "Well, let's talk."
Kind of a lot.
Yeah. And they figured out a way to get that done. And, you improve around the edges. He talked about the Kristaps Porzingis trade, which he was not a part of, but they traded Marcus Smart, and he talked about trading Aaron Nesmith, and they got Derek White back for that, in that trade. So they've made good trades, and they've found a way to have success, and I bet you they called on those specifically to get some of those players, and it's worked out for them extraordinarily well. But, yes, I don't think, Danny was certainly not throwing Colin Sexton or John Collins under the bus. I don't know if the Jazz were like, "Hey, we got to get rid of these guys. Will you give us 2 second-round picks for them?" I don't think those are the phone calls the Jazz had for them.
Nope. And you know what? If he behaved that way, Jordan Clarkson probably wouldn't be on the team. Just as an example.
No, I mean, Lowry probably wouldn't be on the team. If he wanted to get rid of Lowry, he could have gotten rid of Lowry a year ago.
Can I give you a funny desperation story from my life? I'm the type of guy that will drive further down the block if gas is 2 cents cheaper.
Uh-huh.
If I see that sign down the block and it's a little cheaper down there, I'll go down there.
Sure.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense, right? It's 2 cents a gallon.
Right.
Like, what am I saving here?
But mentally, it does something.
Mentally, it does something for me.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I went to pick up my daughter from camp, and it was one of those pickup type situations where you wait in the car, and then they kind of bring the kids out to the camp. You know what I'm talking about? Well, probably 2 minutes before I pulled in to get in line, my gas light went off. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I don't have time to run over to the gas station right now. I guess I got to wait this thing out. So, turn off the car for sure. No air conditioner. Okay, this is going to be a little touch and go. I got out of that parking lot and went to the nearest gas station. Do you think I gave a good god dang what that sign said?
Right, you were desperate.
Yeah, I was desperate.
You had to pay the price.
That's what I'm saying. Do you think I even looked at the price of gas on that sign?
Yeah.
It was like a shady gas station, too. It was like something I would normally pass up.
$4.15 a gallon? You got it.
I swung right in there. I brushed the hobo to the side, and then I just, put it in and had no idea how much that gas cost.
But in this situation, Danny Ainge is the gas station.
He's the gas station.
Yeah, he needs
I want to charge you $5.50 a gallon. Yeah. Ishbia is me.
Correct, right.
Ishbia is me pulling out of the camp. Worrying about running out of gas on the side of the road with my 7-year-old who would complain nonstop.
I like the idea of the metaphor for the Suns is that they're always driving a car with the fuel lights on, and you're just trying to get to the next gas station.
Looking around for gas.
All right, number 3.
Number 3, the Oilers and Panthers give us an overtime thriller in Game 1.
Nugent Hopkins on the left, half boards under pressure, turns and gives it up. Beautiful pass. McDavid in front, one time and score! Leon Draisaitl! 4-3, Edmonton in overtime!
I am trying to, like everybody, learn a little bit more about the NHL, how it works, and what wins. And you heard it right there. McDavid to Draisaitl, right? Those are 2 top 4 picks. McDavid was the number 1 overall pick. In one of the years, you needed to get the number 1 overall pick. Draisaitl was the 3rd overall pick. These are just superstars operating at a high level that are top 5 picks, right? I mean, we try and I think there's a narrative out there that like there's all this parity in hockey and the NHL and it exists one way where it doesn't exist in other sports or certainly not the NBA. And I actually think the more I watch it, the less I think that's true. That's not to say I don't think the Utah Hockey Club has a chance to win, but I do think the reason the Mammoth has a chance to win, it'll take me a minute, is because they have Logan Cooley, who's a top 5 pick, and they have Dylan Gunther as a top 10 pick, and they're adding another top 4 pick now. Like, the reason they're good is because they have all these really high draft picks. It's not just because they've got a bunch of try-hard guys who were drafted 92nd overall. They're going to be good because they have really high talented players. And the Arizona Coyotes fans paid for it because they had to watch a lousy team for a long time, rack up all these high draft picks, and now we get to watch the Utah Mammoth win. And good for us. That's great for us. But, you know, I do feel like I had this belief that, it's a lot more even. It's just a lot easier to win that way. I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I'd have to I guess, really go back and look at who won when. It doesn't seem to me that Connor McDavid wins every year, even though he's overwhelmingly the best player in the league. Yeah, he's never won. Sidney Crosby didn't win every year.
No.
Ovechkin.
He's only got one.
Didn't win every. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the philosophy. I hope not, because I hate that narrative in the NBA with all of my sports fandom. Hate it so much. Well, if you don't have LeBron James, you might as well not even try. I hate that. And that's part of the problem with tanking, too, by the way, is because there's this philosophy where if you don't have the best player in the league, you're doomed. And I guess, you know what, having the best player in the league is an advantage, but I don't want to believe that about hockey. That said, I'm rooting for the Panthers.
Why?
I'm a good red-blooded American.
Well, Florida's not America. Florida reflects nothing about our country.
It's more America than Edmonton.
I disagree. Go Edmonton. Happy to see that overtime winner last night.
That's quite literally not true.
We're really happy to see them get that victory last night. So, see if they can pull it out.
There is a part of you that wants these United States to steal the crown jewel, the pride of Canada.
We've had it for like 25 years, right? When was the last time a Canadian team won it? It's been a very long time.
I'm not talking about the trophy. I'm talking about the sport itself. Like the will.
Owning hockey.
Owning hockey in this country.
No.
Where's your pride?
We've got every other sport. We're doing fine.
We do not have every other sport.
We don't have soccer.
We do not.
We have baseball, kind of. Nah, we probably don't even have baseball. That's
I went
Central
to
and South America.
I went to the rugby match
now Japan.
on Saturday. I got to imagine we don't have the world cornered on rugby, although that was a fine product that we enjoyed ourselves.
No, we got NBA and football. We're fine.
What, no love for baseball?
Well, I just said I don't think we actually own baseball. I think that's probably Japan, South America, Central America.
No, I'm not talking about where players come from. I'm talking about the heartbeat of the sport, which is still these U.S. of A.
Yeah, probably. It's a little dicey with baseball. Do you see their ESPN package that ESPN has passed on is probably going to Apple?
Ugh.
Apple's probably going to buy it too.
Terrible decision.
And bury it where no one can watch it.
But listen, Ben. People are floating on boats from Cuba to play baseball in the United States.
Yeah, there's millions of dollars here. Yeah, there's not in Cuba.
I think that's all that needs to be said. Shohei Ohtani is playing for the Dodgers, not the Tokyo Giants.
And see, I would say it's the opposite. The nice thing is for the NHL right now, where they are trying to figure out what their next TV deal is going to look like and where they're going to get their money from. The nice thing is, I think if you look at it, whatever the broadcasting company is in Canada, just paid like $12 billion for the next 11 years, which is not a ton. You know, the NBA got $70 billion for 10 years. But getting that, having Canada still love that sport ends up probably being really good for Ryan Smith and probably really good for the Utah Mammoth. Probably everyone's happy that the same way, even though we don't talk about it, the NBA is thrilled to have whatever China spends on NBA dollars. It's got to be crazy. As much as we see the $70 billion American, the deal that they get in China to broadcast their games there is not that big, but probably a pretty big piece of the pie.
You can look it up. Are the Sixers allowed back on TV there?
I think they've apologized.
Oh, they don't apologize.
Well,
I'm sure they didn't
Daryl
apologize.
Morey, right? Because it was Morey, yeah.
It was Morey who made the Save Hong Kong tweet.
Yeah.
And then they stopped putting the Rockets games on. And then I think they stopped putting Sixers games on when he went to Philly.
Yeah, maybe it was. I thought they did the entire NBA right off the bat.
Right off the bat, they did. But, yeah, nobody apologized.
NBA China is valued at approximately $5 billion. So.
Yeah, it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
The NHL should 100% stick with the mouse. If we want to talk about rights.
That's $5 billion a year.
Yeah.
So,
I gotcha.
Yeah, that's a decent amount.
They should be on ESPN as much as possible.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I'm serious. The worst thing the NHL ever did was go off
Absolutely
of ESPN in the mid-2000s, and everybody forgot about the sport.
Yes, they need to backfill where baseball is leaving.
Soccer should never have gone to Apple.
Right.
I mean, baseball should not go to Apple, and certainly hockey should not.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Oh, it was crazy. Last night, if you don't have TNT or HBO Max, you can't watch that game.
Yeah.
That's insane. The game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals is not on broadcast television. Tonight, you can tune in and watch the NBA game if you have cable or not. It's on ABC.
Yep.
But you couldn't watch last night's game unless you're subscribed to it, which is that's crazy. We've gotten to that level with that sport.
All right, stay tuned. We'll have more Jake and Ben coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Austin Ainge announces the president of basketball operations for the Utah Jazz. They've got a lot of work, obviously. There's not just a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of years to have to figure some things out. This is not a business-like position. This is a personnel position within the organization, and that is to say, hey, look, we have got to get the right personnel in the building. We've got to figure this thing out. We've got to find exactly where it is that we want to put ourselves.
This is a big loss for the Celtics. He played a big role in helping assemble the roster that they currently have. Brad Stevens runs the day-to-day operations of the Boston Celtics, and it says a lot that Brad could have sent Danny's son packing a long time ago if he didn't have value. Instead, he made him the assistant general manager. He helped build that roster that won an NBA championship last year. He has earned the place where he's at in the NBA today.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott and Ben Anderson. Want to remind you about our friends at Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255. Peach Doors and Windows. I meant to bring up the results, and I think voting is still open, but I think I'm winning on our What You Got Wednesday vote yesterday, Ben, which I'm extremely happy about because I hated your child actors one, which I'm decimating you 74 to 26. And actually, you've surpassed me in most overrated coaches.
Thank goodness.
Now at 52 to 48. You can still vote.
It was tied this morning, so I'm glad somebody broke the tie.
At Jake and Ben KSL, voting is open for like another hour or so. Make that happen. I'm especially happy I'm winning Best Child Actors.
Did you have a take beyond you just didn't like mine?
No, your list sucked.
Okay.
Every performance.
I disagree. I mean, some of those are the most famous of all time, but I get it. You got the big name. You got the number 1 overall pick. You had Macaulay Culkin. That was the one. That was probably the seal of the deal. I don't think you're winning because of Daniel Radcliffe or Jaleel White.
Oh, obviously I'm winning because of Daniel Radcliffe.
Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen.
Everybody loves the Olsen twins.
Sure, and no one likes Anna Chlumsky from My Girl.
Nope, not a person.
And where is his glasses? He can't see without his glasses.
So angry.
Funny, he's talking about your number 1 pick, or she is talking about your number 1 pick, Macaulay Culkin there.
She is.
He happens to be dead. Have you seen that movie, Christian?
Yeah, clarification, he's dead in the movie.
In the movie.
Not
he's
in real life.
Currently
not in real
living.
life.
Yeah.
He's currently still alive. He's still with us.
Still
But
kicking.
he gets stung by bees.
Yeah.
Yeah, bees. Thanks. Spoiler alert.
Another Dan Aykroyd movie. And you love Dan Aykroyd. You were talking about The Great Outdoors a whole lot yesterday.
Oh, it's like the best movie ever.
Other than My Girl.
No.
And where is his glasses? He can't see without his glasses.
Incredibly unfunny Dan Aykroyd is in that movie.
Yeah, he's not supposed to be funny. It's a
funny movie.
It's a dramedy.
We just got another vote. Ben, you're pulling away.
Oh, ridiculous.
Thanks for all the listeners jumping on.
Ridiculous. All right, stay tuned. We're really looking forward to our next guest, Eddie White, who's going to jump on with us. He's the host of Pacers Overtime. He jumped on with us when you were out of town, Ben, and he was really good. So we're excited that he's coming back on. So we'll get a little NBA Finals preview. Do the Pacers have a shot? We'll talk to Eddie about it coming up next. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.